Hello everyone. So today we will look at the table browser, which is nothing but SE16, and I'll try and navigate to some of the tables. So we will start. We will first start with the AGR tables, nothing but some the tables related to the roles in SAP Security. So before we do that, so we need to understand this transaction code called SE16. So SE16 is a data or table browser. So from where you'll be able to access the tables within SAP. So yeah, so you have to understand one point. So everything, every data. So whatever you're doing in SAP gets stored into the tables, into the relevant tables. So if you're talking about user, so that's gonna store in the user master table. So if you're talking about roles, it's gonna store in the respective different role tables. So we will see some of the mostly used tables. So whenever we talk about roles, so the role tables will start with AGR. So now I'll navigate you through some of the basic tables that we normally use yeah, in your day-to-day activities. The very first table is AGR 1251. So what is AGR 1251, and then what do we get from this particular table? So let's see. Uh, okay, so after entering the table name, so you have to click on the table contents. Okay, so if you click on that, so you get to see different filters, different kind of variants that you'll be able to use. So in here we get to see role, ID, etc., etc. So there are. So if I go to settings, so if I go to user parameters, right? So you have something called as field name, and then you have something called as field label. So whatever you're saying right now, it is called as field label. So if I use field name, so you get to see in the SAP naming way. So this is how the that SAP defines. So when we talk about role, it is nothing but AGR. Okay, now let's switch back to the role English naming. So here it is. So yeah, so in here you get to see something called as maximum number of hits, 500. So if you remove it, you get to see the data, whatever is available in the system. So if you click on the number of entries, so it's going to give you around 570 entries are available in this 1251 table. So that's fine. So I'll give the 500 because it will take a lot of time if I execute it. So let me just run it, to for you to see what it actually contains. So this is the role name, and this is the client ID, and this is the object, which is the authorization object, and this is the relevant profile, the authorization profile, and this is a field name, and this is the value. Okay, so this is how this data gets stored here. Okay, so if you okay, let me try to show you a role which makes more sense. These are all SAP delivered roles, whatever we're looking at. So let me try to find out if there are any Z roles available in the system. So I'll just execute it. So yeah, so this is an custom role that we have created. So if you see here, so these are the authorization objects, which is part of this particular role. And these are the field names and these are the values. So these are the range of values from and to. So 1251 table will store your the role relevant authorization objects and then the activities which are maintained inside the authorization objects. So in order to see that, so we use table AGR 1251. So you have to download this particular report. How do you download this as a report is you have to execute %PC, and then you can do text with tabs, and then from here you'll be able to download this report. So you can just give your desktop location or wherever you want to download the file, and then you can just give the role the file name as agr1251.xls, and then just click on generate. So that's gonna generate the file. So this is one way of doing it by using %PC, or else you have the other way around, which is by going into list system list, by going into save local file. So this is going to give you the same thing that we have just seen, which is by executing %PC. So if you remember it, use %PC. If you don't remember it, use this path to download the file. So this is the table AGR1251. So yeah, so let me show you the other things. So if you see here, right, there are other values. So here you will be able to extract the report by doing further, by filtering for the details. Like in here you can see. So these are the statuses of your authorization objects, which are maintained in your PFCG role. I'll talk to you about this one in my next session, in my next training session. So you'll be able to do by using different filters. So you'll be able to extract what are the number of standard authorization objects which are maintained inside, etc., etc. So you'll be able to get the details by giving that particular. So object status is yes. Okay. So you have this different naming convention here. Okay, so you have these different naming conventions, which stands for standard, maintained, modified, and manual. You'll be able to see from here, and you can see here, right? ID whether object is deleted. Okay, so what happens is in your PFCG role, if you deactivate a particular authorization object, so when you run 1251 will, if you're not giving any selection here, it will pull all the values. So if you wanted to say ID whether object is deleted as no, okay, so then it's going to give you the appropriate values. So if you select it as X, right, so which means that the values are deactivated inside the particular role. So for example, let's say we will take this as an example maybe. So we will take this as an example. Let me take this particular role and let me go to PFCG. So this is very important, when you are using 1251. I mean, everybody uses 1251, but you have to know the various ways of using 1251 in order to get the data without you having to go inside the particular role and then do it. So if you see here, right, the authorizations, it is in red, which means that the authorizations are not maintained properly. So I'm going to just do the display. So we are talking about authorization object f underscore fagl underscore sec. So this is where we get to see as ex, which means that this has been deactivated. So how do I search it? Just do Control V and then enter the authorization object. Do find object. See, if you see here, right, this is made inactive. So which is why you need to know by using 1251, if I just don't give it, right, if you keep it as blank, so what happens is it is going to give you everything. So if you extract this into an Excel file, you'll be able to see that it has got everything. So maybe let me try to remove this and then let me show you this. It's going to take some time because we are executing this table for all zeros. There could be lakhs of entries. So you'll be able to search. So if you see here, okay. Anyways, so if you see here, you'll be able to filter based on a particular authorization object, based on a particular field authorization field name, and based on value. And let's say you wanted to check how many roles has got authorization object s underscore user underscore AGR. Okay, for example, user underscore AGR. And let me just execute it. So we have around 300 roles where we have this authorization object s underscore user underscore AGR. I wanted to further drill down and then I wanted to see the activity, which is my field name. I wanted to see this particular authorization object, which roles has got this authorization object, and then which restricted to a particular field, and then so 01 is to create. So I wanted to see the the number of zeros created with authorization object this, with authorization field as ACTVT, with the value as 01, which is create. So if I execute it, you get to see only 26 roles. So if you see here, right, you get to see this X, which means that this is deleted. But however, you get to see this in the 1 to 5 table. So unless and until you exclusively remove this, make the selection, you will not be able to get it. So wherever you see X, which means that these authorization objects are inactive or made inactive in your PFCG role. So this is how you'll extract the report, and then this is how you will be able to analyze what is part of the role and what is not part of the role. Okay. So this is all about the table 1 to 5. So I will talk about 1 to 5.2. Okay. So AGR 1 to 5.2. So it's the same. So but this is specific to the derived roles. So wherever we have organization levels, right? So you will not find the values, the organization level values in the 1 to 5 table. You have to go to 1 to 5.2 table for looking at, what are the restrictions, the various restrictions and the various derived roles that we have created. So in here, for example, in this case, so this particular Z role has got these values. So these are the organization levels, and then the values are maintained with star. So let me show you the organization levels. So these are the organization levels. So if you wanted to find out, maybe take BU carriers as an example. So BU carrier stands for company code. Okay. So I wanted to see how many of my derived roles has got BU carriers company code as 1000, let's say. Okay. So if I execute it, so you have only 7 roles where we have BU carriers maintained as 1000, and here you have this 2 values. So these are ranges. These are called as ranges. So yeah, so this is how you'll be able to find out the organization levels and then a particular values. So 1 to 5.2 is used to look at the organization levels, as in the various restrictions that we have in the company, in the organization. So that is why we use 1 to 5.2. So for example, if you ask me, so how do we see the difference between 1 to 5.1 and 1 to 5.2? For example, so let's say 1 to 5.1. Okay, let me go back. So let me execute a particular role and let me take this role. Okay, as an example. So I'll give it as, so if you're giving one role, I can just directly simply copy it from here. If you want to look for multiple roles, you can able to copy it from here, or else you can use this button, which is upload from clipboard. So you can copy it from your Excel file and then you can just click on this. So this is going to upload all of your required values. So let me just search this particular role, okay, to be very precise. And now if you see here, right, so these are the org levels maintained in this particular role, okay. So if you see here, for example, so yeah, here it is, works stands for plant. So now in here, if you see here, instead of the value WERKS, so what is maintained in WERKS? It is maintained as star, but we don't see this as a star. We just see it as $WRKS, which means that 1 to 5.1 will not store your organization levels. So you have to always go to 1 to 5.2. Okay. So this is the difference between 1 to 5.1 and 1 to 5.2. So this could be your interview question. So just be prepared about this. So that is the difference between 1 to 5.1 and 1 to 5.2, and then in which situation that we use 1 to 5.1 and then in which case we use 1 to 5.2. So this is the primary difference. And now we will see the other table, which is AGR underscore AGRS. Okay, so by using this table, we'll be able to see what are the different single roles maintained in a particular composite role. So you will be able to see the composite to single role mapping by using this particular table. So let me search for the composite roles, for example. So in this case, so this is a composite role and these are the single roles maintained. So you can just search for one item just to be sure, just for you to understand. So go to PFCG. So instead of going into PFCG and then checking for each role, if we use table, it will make our work easier. Okay. So these are the various single roles maintained in the particular composite role. So that we can achieve it from this table AGR underscore AGRS. Okay. And then extracting this in a particular, in Excel sheet is the same process. You use %PC or else you use the system and then list and then save it. Okay. So that is what we do in AGR underscore AGRS. And then the other important table is AGR underscore define. Okay, what does this do? Okay, in here, so we simply see both these fields as role. So let me go to settings, let me go to user parameters, and let me go to field name. Okay, so in here you see it as AGR underscore name, and then you see parent underscore AGR. So this is going to be your master role, and this is going to be your derived role. So by using AGR underscore define, you will be able to see the relationship between the parent role and the derived role. So you'll be able to see for which derived roles, which you'll be able to see the parent role maintained for the different derived roles. So let me say I wanted to find out the derived roles maintained for. So if you see here, right? So this is my parent role and these are my derived roles. Okay. So for this particular role, SAP accountant, you get to see these three derived roles. So that is how you can check it in the AGR underscore define. And then you'll be able to see who has created this, and then the created date, created time, change user, who has been last changed. So the last change has been made on when. So you'll be able to see the other details by using this table, AGR underscore define. So these are the mostly used tables related to the roles. And let me talk about USR02 as well, so that we will be finishing, all the important tables which are required in SAP security. So USR02 table stands for user master. Okay. So you will be able to see the users present in the system. So let me remove the maximum number of hits. So this is going to give me 4,172 users present in the system. So you'll be able to see all various details like the user name, so the user type. So you have 5 different user types. So I'll cover this in different session. And then you see the U flag. So we will talk about U flag now. So we have who has created this, who has created on which date, etc., etc. You'll be able to see find all these details from your USR02 table. So when I talk about U flag, right, U flag will give you the log status of a particular user. So in here you have these different statuses. Like say if it is 0, which means that the user is not logged. If it is 32, the user is logged globally by administrator, which means that if you use a CUA, for example, Central User Administration, so the status would be 32. So if the user is logged locally, so if you don't have any CUA, then it's going to be 64. So if the user logs in with incorrect passwords, then it's going to be 128. So this is how you see. This is how you determine the user status based on the lock value. Okay, this is nothing but U flag. So this is very important question. What does U flag denotes, and then how do we analyze issues based on the status of this U flag? Okay. So and then you can able to filter based on user type as well. So you have these 5 different user types. Dialogue stands with denotes with A, system with B, communication with C, reference with L, and service with S. So I'll talk about these user types in the next session, in which case we use what. Okay, so I'll talk about that in my next session. So these are the very basic important SAP security tables that you have to know. So these would be used in your day-to-day activities. So yeah, so that's all that I wanted to cover today in terms of the tables in SAP. I mean, the security related tables that we mostly use. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. And please do subscribe, and we will meet in the next session. Thank you.